eldest son's wife, but that doesn't mean I plan to get along well with you, Nicole. I want to maintain a proper distance." These were the words of my brother's wife when they had just gotten married, and the three of us, my mother, my sister-in-law, and I, were having a tea together. While it's true that maintaining a proper distance is important, I still remember being stunned by her audacity to say such a thing to us directly. The reason we had tea together was because my mother wanted to build a closer relationship with Amanda. Apparently, she didn't realize that my mother was trying to be considerate, and I was disappointed about that. After we got home, I sighed at her words and attitude. My mother, smiling, a bit lonely, saying, "She must still be feeling tense." My name is Nicole. I'm a 33-year-old office worker. I've been living with my mother in our family home since my father passed away from illness 10 years ago. My brother and younger brother both have their own families, but I have no plans to marry yet. It's not that I don't want to get married, but I find my job fulfilling and am satisfied with my current life. One evening, my smartphone rang. The display showed my sister-in-law's name, Amanda. She just had her first child recently. It was very unusual for her to call me. As I answered the call, she said, "It's been a while, Nicole. I just gave birth the other day, but I haven't heard anything from you. Normally, I would expect my sister-in-law to offer congratulations on the birth." I thought to myself, she hasn't changed a bit, as she began the conversation with such a blunt statement. She is the same age as me and has been married to my brother for 7 years. My brother is head over heels for her. I would never say it out loud, but I have never liked her. She tends to make sarcastic remarks and has a nagging way of speaking. For some reason, she doesn't act this way towards my brother. "Amanda, it's been a while. I should have contacted you sooner. I apologize. Congratulations on your childbirth." I had been busy with work, and since my sister-in-law had just given birth, I thought she would be busy too, so I held back from reaching out, but that seemed to have backfired. However, in her case, it would be wise not to mention that. I had once apologized to her for something and used work as an excuse, only to receive an annoying response like, "Are you trying to show off how busy you are because I only work part-time? You don't have to brag about it." Of course, I had no intention of showing off. As I apologized sincerely, she snorted. "Well, whatever. You should come see the baby sometime soon. She's a cute little girl. You're enjoying your single life and working hard, so I'm expecting a nice baby shower gift from you." That's her real purpose, I thought, feeling disheartened. Although the baby is my adorable niece, and her birth is indeed something to celebrate, I couldn't help but wonder why my sister-in-law had to make such unnecessary remarks. I just wish she would let me offer my congratulations with genuine feelings in my own time. "All right, I'll come visit with my mother on a day that works for you." "Oh, please don't bring your mom. I'm not good with her. Besides, I already introduced her to the baby when we left the maternity ward. We even got the congratulatory money from her." I felt irritated by her words. What kind of attitude is that? It's as if she's saying there's no other reason to meet my mother other than for a celebratory gift. Besides, is it right for me to hear about how difficult her mother-in-law, my mom, is to deal with? Okay, I understand. Please let me know a convenient day, and sorry, but I need to go. I need to take my dinner break now. Amanda's insensitive remarks weren't anything new. But I didn't want to feel any more uncomfortable, so I just replied casually and hung up the phone. I felt very uneasy. Seeing me come down the stairs with a scowl, my mom, who was preparing dinner, tilted her head. I thanked her for the meal she served and told her about the conversation with Amanda. I was so upset, I had to vent to my mom. Well, that's too bad, but there will be plenty of opportunities to see the baby, my mom said nonchalantly, seemingly unfazed by Amanda's words. But it's been quite a while since she married my brother, and her attitude is just too much. Your anger on my behalf makes me happy. By the way, I couldn't give it to you the other day because I wasn't ready, but could you take this with you as well? Despite hearing my complaints, my mom still wanted to give an additional gift. I smiled bitterly at the wrapped present. Mom, you're really too kind. All right, I'll make sure to give it. It's a celebration for the baby, after all. My mom nodded with a smile. There's a lot to think about when it comes to my sister-in-law, but it's for my adorable niece. I decided to think of it that way. On the day I went to Amanda's house, I ran into my younger brother's wife, Emily, on the way. She was also invited to the house, just like me. Emily married my brother 4 years ago and quickly became pregnant and gave birth. She's currently pregnant with her second child. I might be rude to compare, but unlike my other sister-in-law, Emily is cheerful and honest, and she gets along well with my mom and me. When we arrived at Amanda's house, she greeted us with an unusually good mood. She led us into the living room, where the sleeping baby lay in a crib. The innocent sleeping face soothed my heart. We laughed together in hushed voices so as not to wake the baby, and took our seats on the sofa. After Emily handed over her gift, I followed by giving mine. Here are some blankets, toys, and this, a baby outfit that my mom made. She unwrapped the package containing the clothes my mother made. Upon examining the contents, she let out a heavy sigh. Handmade? That's worse than trash. Even though she's the grandmother to her eldest son's child, why does she give us such a cheap-looking gift? The other items aren't great either. I'm so disappointed in her. She carelessly threw my mother's handmade clothes on the floor, and my other sister-in-law quickly picked them up. That's so terrible. Our mother-in-law took her precious time making them and wrapping them so neatly. If you don't want them, I'd be more than happy to take them. My sister-in-law laughed dismissively at Emily's words. Really? If you want them that badly, go ahead. Her tone was blatantly condescending. If you think they're worth keeping, please do. I'm sure my mother would be happy too. At my words, my other sister-in-law's face lit up. I'm so happy. These are like high-end brand clothes. When the baby is born, I'll dress them in these. I can't wait. Her innocent joy was somehow comforting. If my mother were here, she would probably say the same thing. Wait, what do you mean by high-end brand? She seemed utterly confused. After the 3 of us siblings became independent, my mother started selling her handmade crafts online, using her skills in sewing and other hobbies. Compared to when she started, her work is now considered a high-end handmade brand due to the quality of materials and design. The handmade aspect makes them rare and valuable, and she even received collaboration requests from luxury brands. Amanda had no interest in me or my mother, and kept her interactions to a minimum, so she was unaware of this. My brother should have known, but perhaps he didn't feel the need to mention it. After I finished explaining, she said, I never heard about that. Wait, that changes things. Give it back. She tried to snatch the clothes back from my other sister-in-law. I quickly intervened, sitting between them, and managed to keep her safe. What would you do if something happened to Emily and her unborn baby? My sharp tone seemed to hit a nerve with my sister-in-law. Her face turned red, and she started venting her emotions like steam from a kettle. Nobody would think that clothes made by my mother-in-law as a hobby would be a high-end. It's like a trick, you sly woman. She began. Nicole gets to continue doing what she loves even though we're the same age, and it's not fair. She continued. Emily, ignoring me as the elder sister-in-law, had a baby right away and is already expecting her second. It's so sneaky. Show some consideration and hold back a little. In summary, that was her rant. Most of it had nothing to do with the current situation, and it seemed like the majority was jealousy towards me and Emily. I got the feeling that I finally understood why she was always so harsh towards my family members other than my brother. Upon getting married, she quit the job she loved and switched to part-time work to focus on housework and trying to conceive. In the midst of that, she may have harbored resentment towards me for having the freedom to work and my other sister-in-law for her quick pregnancies. But that's a separate issue. It doesn't mean she can say whatever she wants or destroy someone's heartfelt gift, whether it's high-end or not. Amanda's emotions exploded, and she started crying loudly, which caused the baby to cry as well. As Emily, who was worried about the baby, tried to approach, Amanda restrained her, yelling, Don't touch my child! Emily and I were at a loss for what to do when my brother came home from work. Seeing his wife and baby crying in this strange situation, my brother's face contorts. What happened? Well, as I explained the situation to my brother, who picked up the crying baby to soothe it, he apologized to Emily and me. I'm sorry. Amanda might be a bit neurotic from her first time parenting. Emily, I'm sorry to trouble you when you're pregnant. Are you feeling okay? His concern for Emily's well-being seemed to upset his wife even more, and she yelled at him. Don't flirt with someone else's husband when you're pregnant! My brother scolded her, saying, Stop it! But his wife just whimpered and started crying again. I'll handle it, so you two don't worry and go home. I'm sorry things turned out like this, even though Amanda invited you over. As my brother looked apologetic, we left their house. Outside, the sun was starting to set, and it was getting dark. I wonder if Amanda's all right. I understand how she feels since I was tense during my first pregnancy, and it was tough mentally. On the way home, despite having been verbally abused, I still worried about Amanda. My mom and Emily are such kind-hearted people. At least it doesn't seem like she was hurt by the harsh words, which makes me feel a bit relieved. Don't worry, my brother's there, so everything will be fine. As I tried to cheer her up, a smile finally returned to her face. A few hours later, after dinner, I returned to my room and picked up my phone to find multiple missed calls from my sister-in-law, Amanda. Yikes! At this point, I had a bad feeling. As I hesitated, my phone vibrated again, and her name appeared on the screen. I wanted to turn the phone off, but, resigning myself to the situation, I answered the call. Why didn't you answer sooner? I responded to a clearly irritated Amanda. I was having dinner. What is my brother doing? He's in the bath now. If he were right there, he'd have stopped her from calling, so it makes sense. My brother takes long baths, so she probably wanted to complain about something while he was not around. Even though I have an idea of what's going on, I asked her, So, what can I do for you? Send another set of baby clothes. At her words, I couldn't help but blurt out, What? Are homemade clothes worse than trash? Stop nagging. It's a high-end brand, right? I want to brag about it on SMS. Ask your mother to make another one. I sighed, fed up with her ridiculous request, which was even more absurd than usual. I wasn't expecting her to apologize, but this was too much. As I was at a loss for words, she became even more aggressive. What's with the sigh? Emily says. I've already gotten mine, and everyone else. Really? From her tone, I could tell she had called my other sister-in-law before me. She probably claimed the clothes as her own and tried to snatch them, not realizing how absurd her words and actions were. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Shame on you, Amanda. Throwing my mother's heartfelt gift on the floor, calling it worse than trash, then flipping your attitude when you find out it's a high-end brand. Aren't you embarrassed as an adult? If you really want it, apologize to my mother and ask her yourself. I had never been harsh with Amanda before, all because I was considerate of my mother and brother. But I'd reached my limit. My mother knew the whole story about giving the baby clothes to Emily. I don't like the idea that she thinks she can get them by just asking me. She should bow her head and ask for it herself once in a while. So you're saying all those mean things because it's about my child? Her voice was shaking after hearing my true feelings. It has nothing to do with that. I denied it, but she fell silent, and I could hear her sobbing on the other end of the line. She seemed to be quite sensitive when it came to being criticized herself. Everyone is so cold. I finally gave birth to a baby, and nobody's pampering me. I'm blocked by Emily, ridiculed by you, and my husband won't even take my side. In the end, only David is on my side. A sudden mention of an unfamiliar name made me doubt my own ears. I was shocked to hear that even gentle Emily had blocked her. But she must have said something terrible to her on the phone. Wait, who's David? At my question, she gasped, realizing that she had let something slip. She seemed to be panicking. As I waited for her to say something, I heard my brother's voice asking, "What's going on?" He must have just gotten out of the bath. She was startled too, and she stammered, No, that's not. David is just an online friend. You're misunderstanding things." I didn't know what the misunderstanding was, but my sister-in-law was desperately making excuses. I suddenly heard my brother's voice as he took over the call and took the phone away from her. "You're talking to Nicole. Sorry, Nicole, but I need to talk to her for a moment." His voice was lower and angrier than usual. I agreed and hung up the phone. It's probably going to be a stormy situation from now on. Later, my brother came to our house to report that he was getting a divorce. First, he apologized for his wife's treatment of our mother's handmade clothes as trash. Amanda felt belittled when she received handmade gifts as presents. This is ironic, considering how she always looked down on Emily, my mother, and me. After the phone call, my brother confronted his wife about the mysterious David. While my brother was busy at work, she met David online and eventually cheated with him in person. Amanda confessed everything. She tried to justify it as a mistake made out of loneliness, but that excuse doesn't hold water. I knew my brother was trying to adjust his work to support his wife's parenting and spend more time with the family, so thinking about his feelings was heartbreaking. Even my usually mild-mannered mother showed her anger toward Amanda. They're going to do a DNA test on the baby just in case. I never imagined that a simple visit to deliver a baby gift would have escalated to this point. In the end, the DNA test disproved the parent-child relationship between my brother and the baby. My brother received a large amount of compensation from his wife and her cheater, and the divorce was finalized. She was dumped by her lover as well, and now she'll likely work day and night. I'm relieved to hear that the baby will be raised by her sensible grandparents, not Amanda. 3 years have passed. My mother's handmade clothes and accessories are still loved by many. Emily and I are, of course, longtime fans. I got married last year and am now pregnant. My mother is already excitedly planning the baby's clothes. My brother, who was deeply hurt by my sister-in-law incident, recently found a new girlfriend. I sincerely hope that he will find true happiness this time.
Here's a celebration gift, $2,000. After giving birth and returning to my husband's family home, my mother in law handed us an envelope with $2,000 as a baby gift. I checked the contents and then threw the envelope into the trash. Was this their payback for enduring days of being belittled by my mother in law and senior employees? What are you doing? Apologize to Mom, I scolded my flustered husband. Can you say the same after seeing this? My husband, after checking the envelope's contents, glared at his mother with anger he had never shown before. And then he made a decision. My name is Scarlett Wood, 28 years old. I had an arranged marriage with my husband, Elijah. Elijah, 2 years older than me, is the eldest son of a Japanese sweets shop and was raised strictly as the heir, but he is a very gentle and kind person. From the moment we first met, I was drawn to his kindness. I want people around the world to know the beauty and delicate taste of Japanese sweets, so I work as a Japanese sweets artisan. Will you help make my dream come true? Elijah said this and presented me with a Japanese sweet made in my image instead of an engagement ring. As I was moved to tears, Elijah continued to speak. When we get married, Scarlett, you'll work as the young mistress of our shop. Also, we'll live with my parents in our family home. Is that okay? Living with my in-laws was a condition of the marriage. There's a lot that comes with marrying an heir, but as long as Elijah is with me, everything will be fine. Thinking this way, I accepted his proposal. We became husband and wife. As promised, after the marriage, we started living with my in-laws in the residence that also served as the Japanese sweets shop. Scarlett, you married into this family, so of course you should be prepared. Behave properly as the young mistress. Yes. The day I stepped into my husband's family home, I was already met with harsh words from my mother-in-law. The sweet married life I had dreamt of didn't exist in this world. Scarlett, how many times do I have to tell you? Learn our traditions properly. Please be more aware that you're the young mistress and act accordingly. It's so hard on our headmistress to have someone like you marry into our family. I faced daily criticism from my mother-in-law and senior female employees. My father-in-law didn't speak much, but when he was watching me, I felt tense and would sometimes make mistakes because of it. He would sigh loudly, seeing my performance. There was no place for me to feel at ease in this house. But I was determined to work hard, earn everyone's approval, and become a wife Elijah wouldn't be ashamed of. That feeling alone kept me going. During this time, I found out I was pregnant. Take care of yourself and give birth to a fine heir. Everyone, starting with my mother-in-law, began to be more considerate of my condition. At the 5-month pregnancy checkup, I learned the baby's gender and excitedly shared the news during dinner with my in-laws and Elijah. Our baby is a girl. For a moment, everyone froze. A girl? Oh, a girl. Huh. Wait, no one is offering congratulations. Elijah kept his gaze down, silently continuing to eat without making eye contact with anyone. I was taken aback by everyone's attitude. Does an heir have to be a boy? Unable to understand the Mr. Wood family's mindset, I ate my meal in frustration. The next day, everyone's attitude changed completely. Pregnancy isn't an illness. Stop being spoiled and work hard. As soon as they found out the baby was a girl, the criticism and mistreatment from my mother-in-law and senior employees returned. Why can't a girl inherit the Japanese sweets shop? I felt sorry for my unborn child, who wouldn't be welcomed into the world with smiles and blessings. I made up my mind to protect her, no matter what. I think you've noticed, Elijah, I've been criticized every day since I married into this family. The way they treat me since they found out our child is a girl is unbearable. One day, I couldn't take it anymore and told Elijah. He looked troubled. Scarlett, I'm sorry. I'm still in training. I don't have the right to oppose this family. Please bear with it. If you learn your job quickly, I'm sure my mother and others will stop criticizing you. I'm very happy whether our child is a boy or a girl. Please take care of yourself. With that, Elijah quickly went to take a bath. Though he tried to be considerate, I was shocked by how unreliable Elijah was. But I rubbed my belly. I can't let this get me down. I'm going to be a mother. I must become strong for that reason. With that in mind, I endured the mistreatment and criticism alone, dreaming of the day my child would be born healthy. In my in-laws' home, I was mainly responsible for cooking dinner. When buying groceries, I'd pay for them first, then give the receipt to my mother-in-law, who would reimburse me. This system made it difficult to buy what I wanted since she checked the receipts meticulously. Because of this system and my mother-in-law's thorough examination of the receipts, it was hard for me to buy things I really wanted to eat. However, after becoming pregnant, I often found myself craving sour and sweet foods. Should I buy it? But I don't want my mother-in-law to make snide remarks again. I debated while shopping, but never found the courage to buy anything. One day, though, I desperately wanted something sweet. Feeling helpless, I agonized over it before finally asking Elijah, who was working in the shop. Oh, I can't help but crave sweets because of the pregnancy. Can I have some scraps or something if there are any? Sure, just wait a moment. Elijah secretly wrapped up some leftover scraps from making the sweets in plastic wrap, avoiding the eyes of the employees. Thank you. But just then, my mother-in-law appeared. What are you doing here, Scarlett? My mother-in-law's gaze falls on my hand. Well, how shameless. This is the workshop for the artisans. I won't allow you to come in here anymore. Saying this, she snatches the scraps Elijah had given me and kicks me out of the workshop. One day, as I open the fridge to prepare dinner, I find it packed with high-end ingredients like luxurious Wagyu beef that I've never seen before. Since I can't use the fridge's contents without my mother-in-law's permission, I ask her for confirmation. Can I use the food in the fridge? What are you talking about? That's for Natalie, who's coming back the day after tomorrow. Don't you dare use it. She coldly responds. Natalie is Elijah's sister. She married into a farming family and now, 3 months pregnant and suffering from morning sickness, she's apparently coming back to her parents' house. Returning home just 3 months into her pregnancy. I'm 7 months pregnant and I've been used and abused, being told pregnancy isn't an illness. I have a lot on my mind, but the more I think about it, the more miserable I become. So I pull myself together and prepare dinner using the other ingredients. On the day Natalie returns home, my mother-in-law is in high spirits from mourning. She had originally opposed Natalie marrying into the farming family and seems overjoyed to have her back home after a long time. I'll cook dinner today, Scarlett, so you can go and take a leisurely walk. Unusually, my mother-in-law is kind. Usually, I'm busy in the evenings and can't take leisurely walks, so I decide to take advantage of her offer. Sky is so high. The sky I look up at after a long time is dyed red and it warmly envelops me. When I suddenly touch my belly, I feel the baby move. Mommy will work hard for you, so come out healthy and strong, I whisper to my unborn child. Oh, what a delicious smell. When I return home, I'm greeted by the aroma of grilled steak. As I try to enter the living room, I hear voices from the inside. Natalie, eat a lot for the sake of your baby. Peeking inside, I see my mother-in-law has lined up a variety of dishes in front of Natalie. At the table, my father-in-law and Elijah are silently eating steak. What about Scarlett's portion? The moment Elijah says this and looks up, our eyes meet. Oh, don't worry. I made some stew for her. At my mother-in-law's reply, Elijah says nothing and looks away from me. There's no steak for me. I can't take it anymore and quietly go to our bedroom, trying not to draw attention. I'm pregnant, just like Natalie, yet no one tells me to eat a lot. Seeing the reality that I'm being excluded, I can't hold back my tears any longer. Why do I have to suffer like this? Neither my unborn child nor I are welcomed in this house. I just want to leave this place. My tears keep flowing endlessly. After a while, Elijah comes in with a cold piece of steak. I secretly brought you my portion. It's cold, but I'm sorry for making you feel even sadder with my sister here. He genuinely apologizes, looking remorseful. I should be more assertive, but I'm not good with my mom and sister. My mom struggled with my grandma, so she probably thinks this is normal for a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship. My sister didn't like me since I was little because I was the eldest son and got a lot of attention. And she's always been mean to me behind my back. They're both strong-willed and troublesome. So honestly, I don't want to deal with them. Your family issues have nothing to do with me. Although he apologized, I realize he won't particularly protect me or our child in the future, feeling even more miserable due to Elijah's unreliability. I eat the steak he offers, though I have no appetite, thinking of the baby in my belly. Even though it's supposed to be high-quality meat, I can't taste it. I mechanically chew and somehow manage to swallow it. Life after Natalie's return is even harder for pregnant me. Scarlett, please fetch this for me. My mother-in-law doesn't hesitate to make me work despite my big belly. Natalie, you should rest until your morning sickness subsides. Meanwhile, Natalie takes advantage of being pampered by her parents and lounges around the house all day. We're both pregnant, but even though my belly is much bigger, it's frustrating, but for now, I have to quietly endure it. Scarlett, I brought some pudding for you. The fact that Elijah started secretly buying me food I wanted to eat because he must have felt sorry for the unbearable treatment I was receiving was at least a small comfort. One day, I happened to see that Natalie's room was filled with high-end branded baby products and maternity items. I had held back and bought everything at a cheap store on the outskirts of town. Both our children would be grandchildren to my in-laws, so why is there such a difference? I tried not to care, but it made me very sad. On December 20th, I finally gave birth to a baby girl. Elijah cried tears of joy. I'll grow up quickly and protect both you and our child. Elijah made this promise to me. When we returned to my in-laws' house after being discharged from the hospital, my mother-in-law surprisingly welcomed us with a smile. Let me hold her for a bit. I handed the baby to my mother-in-law, and as expected, she was skilled at soothing the baby since she had raised 2 children herself. I guess she loves her grandchild after all. I felt a little relieved seeing my mother-in-law's demeanor. After a while, she returned the baby to me and took an envelope out of her pocket to give to Elijah. Here's a gift, $2,000. What? That much? I was surprised, but Elijah didn't seem too shocked. Maybe in this family, it's normal to give that much as a gift. Elijah handed the envelope to me without checking the contents, so I put the baby in the crib before accepting it. I checked the contents, just in case. What? What is this? My mother-in-law looked away, smirking. Enough already. I threw the envelope into the trash. Hey, what are you doing? Apologize to my mom. Elijah panicked. Would you say the same thing if you saw this? I picked up the discarded envelope and showed Elijah the contents. Upon seeing it, Elijah furrowed his brows. Unbelievably, instead of $2,000, The envelope contained a bundle of receipts and invoices for luxury food and maternity items that my in-laws had prepared for Natalie. "What's the meaning of this, Mom?" Even Elijah raised his voice. "It's only natural for the eldest son's family to pay for our household expenses." My mother-in-law shamelessly spouted nonsense. "Why should we have to pay for the maternity items and baby gear meant for Natalie, who had married into our family?" I can't stay silent any longer. I made up my mind to leave this house with my child. At that moment, Elijah's low voice echoed, "I'm leaving this house." What? The room went quiet, and everyone, including me, looked at Elijah. Elijah glared at his mother with a rage I'd never seen before. "What do you think we are? Your attitude towards Scarlett, how you acted when you found out our child is a girl, and how you always interfere with the store I was put in charge of. I've always been unhappy with it, but as the eldest son of this confectionery shop, I thought I'd endure it until I became a capable person to protect the shop. However, I've reached my limit. Our family is leaving this house. I won't take over the shop. Thank you for everything," Elijah said and deeply bowed to his parents. My in-laws were speechless at the unexpected turn of events and eventually left the room silently. "Scarlett, I'm truly sorry for everything. I'll protect you and our child. I decided to leave this house on my own. But will you stay by my side?" Elijah's face returned to its usual gentle expression. "Yes, thank you for protecting us. Let's overcome any difficulties together as a family of 3. From the next day, Elijah started looking for a new home, and a week later, our new life as a family of 3 began. Our new home was a small 2DK apartment, but it was very happy and a comforting space for me. Make sure you eat a lot and sleep well when you can. And to my surprise, our new home was only a 5-minute walk from my parents' house. Elijah is really a wonderful person. It's rare for someone to admit their weakness and ask for help as an adult. According to my mother, had explained and apologized for everything to my parents the night he decided to leave, asking for their help moving forward. "You can always rely on us. We're so happy that you're close by." I cried at my mother's kindness. Elijah occasionally gets messages from his mother asking to show their grandchild, but he seems to only send pictures. After discussing as a couple, we decided that our family and his parents should keep a distance for a while, and we never told them our new address. Thanks to that, we were able to live peaceful days. "Scarlett, we're running out of diapers. I'll go buy some." Elijah actively helped with housework and childcare, and we cherished our modest happiness, living humbly every day. "I'm thinking of starting my own business." One day, Elijah came to me for advice. Even though the path to inherit his family's business had been closed off, Elijah, who had been fascinated by traditional Japanese sweets since he was a child, had not given up on being involved with them. His dream of sharing the beauty and delicate taste of Japanese sweets with people all over the world, which he had shared with me before we got married, was still alive in his heart. To make that dream come true, Elijah decided to start an online store for Japanese sweets. I was inspired by him. I wanted to help him achieve his dream too. With that thought in mind, I wondered if I could utilize the experience I had gained while briefly involved in making Japanese sweets at my in-laws' house, and I brainstormed in between housework and childcare. "Look at the beautiful Japanese sweets Papa made." One day, showed our child the Japanese sweets he had made. Although our 0-year-old child couldn't eat them yet, their eyes sparkled, and they laughed excitedly at the sight of gentle colors unique to Japanese sweets. Seeing that, I had a flash of inspiration. What about Japanese sweets that even babies can eat? In my head, I pictured cute baby smiles and Japanese sweets overlapping. As soon as I told Elijah, he agreed, saying, That's a great idea, and incorporated my suggestion. We focused on developing Japanese sweets that utilize the natural sweetness of ingredients like sweet potatoes instead of sugar, and the gentle colors of the ingredients themselves without using food coloring, all while making them suitable for babies. And in about 3 months, we created the product we had envisioned. At first, we placed our sweets in a friend's Japanese sweet shop and observed the customers' reactions. The feedback was better than we could have ever imagined, with comments saying they were perfect for first meals and birthday parties. This could work. With that thought, we started selling our sweets online, and they became a huge hit in no time. The media picked up our story, and our company steadily grew. Until the business took off, Elijah and I were fully occupied with childcare and work. However, by the time our daughter turned 2, the company had stabilized and was generating a steady income. As we gained some breathing room, I suddenly thought of Elijah's family, with whom we hadn't spoken for almost 2 years. In fact, after we left, I heard that Natalie developed preeclampsia during her pregnancy and had to be hospitalized. Perhaps it wasn't good for her to eat high-calorie food and expensive meat from her in-laws without exercising much. She had to endure a restricted pregnancy with strict bed rest and dietary restrictions. Well, everyone must have been relieved when a healthy baby boy was born. Unfortunately, the bad news continued as the family's Japanese sweets shop went out of business after Elijah left. What happened to your parents after they closed the shop? When I asked Elijah, he said they were living modestly on their pension. Despite not having many good memories, they were still the people who raised Elijah. 2 years had passed since we left his family's home, and our anger had somewhat subsided. So, after discussing with Elijah, we decided to give each of his parents $2,000 in cash as a birthday present. By the way, the amount of $2,000 came from the $2,000 his mother had mentioned as a childbirth gift. We didn't know if she remembered, but if she did, we hoped she would reflect on it. Later, we received a message from Elijah that the money we sent by registered mail had arrived. His parents were apparently very happy. Although we weren't ready to visit his family's home yet, we believed time would resolve this issue. As long as we live our lives with pride, things should move in a positive direction. Childcare is still a challenge, but with the support of my parents, I can focus on Japanese sweets with Elijah. Mom, is this my candy? Yes, Cherry. The cherry blossom petals are beautiful, aren't they? Tasty? Delicious. I'm so happy. My daughter touches her cheek with a delighted expression. This is a Japanese sweet we developed to be edible even for 1-year-olds, melting in their mouths without needing to be chewed. We made it into a cute Japanese sweet shaped like cherry blossom petals, inspired by our daughter's name, Cherry. I hope this sweet, like our child, brings smiles to everyone's faces. Mom, here! Open wide! My daughter feeds me a piece of the sweet. The gentle sweetness melts in my mouth. I love that face, Mom. I hope this blissful moment with Japanese sweets reaches people all around the world.
Get out, now! I woke up to my husband screaming. Bleary-eyed, I sat up in bed, glancing around anxiously, thinking something had happened, but everything was silent. Huh? What's going on? Turning around, I saw my husband, who had been shouting, was still in a dream. Could it be sleep talking? My husband Liam often talks in his sleep. This wasn't the first time I've been awakened by his late-night chatter, but today's words were a first, and I couldn't help but let out a wry laugh. What's this about? Get out? Then, as if responding to my words, my husband started to say something shocking. Upon hearing it, I trembled. Could this really be happening? That's how I, a woman who had spent 40 years with her husband until retirement, decided to get a divorce. My name is Vida, and I'm 63 years old. Liam and I have a son, but he moved out 5 years ago after getting married. We finished raising our child without any major incidents, and despite some ups and downs, I thought we were getting along pretty well as a couple. My husband is supposed to retire next month on his birthday. Back when we were in our 50s, we'd laugh and say things like, after retirement, let's move to a rural area in the mountains and try farming. We could ski all winter. Or, it'd be nice to travel around the US in a camper van. But as retirement approached, those kinds of conversations stopped altogether. Of course, I didn't really want to ski all the time at this age, but we're still physically fit, and I thought it'd be nice to travel together. So, I was considering celebrating my husband's retirement by staying at a fancy inn we wouldn't normally go to, and I was in the middle of looking up various places online. But then, "Get out now!" The words he said in response to my comments after that sleep talk were unbelievable. "Emberlyn, my wife, has found out about the affair. It'll be bad if she comes." My soundly sleeping husband was gripping the blanket, groaning and moving his head. Emberlyn? The moment I heard that name, I started shaking with anger. "If things go on like this, our plan will be ruined." His sleep talk continued. "Is that so? Then I'll really ruin that plan for you." I'd been with him for 40 years, and I thought we were about to start a peaceful new chapter of our lives, but from that day on, I found myself heading in a direction I'd never thought of before: divorce. The next morning, my husband woke up at his usual time and was eating the breakfast I'd prepared for him as if nothing was amiss. "You were talking in your sleep more than usual last night." "Really? I've been busy with work handovers and such. Maybe I'm stressed." "You have to take care of your health to do a good job until the end." "Yeah." He seemed to have no recollection of last night. I deliberately spoke to him in a softer tone than usual, and unlike normal, I saw him off at the front door as he left for work. "It's unusual for you to see me off." "Well, your retirement is coming up soon, so every now and then." "Right. I'm off then. I'll be working late today, but I'll be back by the last train." "Then you won't need dinner." "Yeah." My husband slammed the door shut. I locked the door from the inside and waited a while, making sure his footsteps were fading away. I wonder if he's really working overtime. Now I've got to hurry. I began searching the house for evidence of his affair. When I checked each pocket of my husband's suits in the closet, I found a crumpled piece of paper. I found it, just as I thought. It was clearly a suspicious hotel receipt. He probably paid in cash to avoid leaving a record with a card payment, but it's pointless if he doesn't dispose of it. There were several similar receipts, and the most recent one was dated 2 days ago. He said he was working overtime the day before yesterday, and he didn't come home until midnight. Since hearing his sleep talk last night, I was prepared for the infidelity, but when the evidence actually surfaced, I found myself crying without realizing it, shaking by the reality. "Why, you said you'd broken up. I believed that." The truth is, my husband had cheated once before, 10 years ago. "I'm sorry, it was just a momentary lapse of judgment." "Madam, we will never meet again. Please forgive us." When their affair was exposed, they apologized, prostrating themselves. Emberlyn, the woman he was cheating with, was a decade younger and a subordinate at work. Apparently, my husband had started to sympathize with Emberlyn, who was struggling with a divorce and raising a child, and while he was consulting with her, they somehow ended up in such a relationship. The affair came to light when my sister happened to see the two of them arm in arm, disappearing into a hotel district. Soon after, I heard that Emberlyn had quit her job and returned to the countryside, so I believed that their relationship had ended. Of course, there was a lingering resentment deep in my heart. However, at that time, our son, a senior in college, was job hunting, and I was worried that our divorce might affect him, so I endured it. There was also a part of me that was completely reassured that this man, who had been with me all this time, couldn't seriously abandon me. And I kept telling myself that we could start over from now on. "So, you've been deceiving me for 10 years since then?" My hand clutching the hotel receipt trembled violently. "I will never forgive this. It's not just a divorce. Remember that." When I searched through his bag and drawers, I found brochures of inns I'd never been to and aquarium tickets, but they didn't prove that Emberlyn was the other woman. Oh, right. I pulled out a laptop that had been stored away in the closet. It was something my husband had bought a few years ago with the intention of starting a side business. However, after a while, he only played games on it, and once he realized that he could do that just fine on his phone, he stopped using it altogether. I'd borrowed it a few times, so I knew the password. As expected, the computer started up easily, and I opened up my husband's emails. Because he uses a free email service and had it set up so that he could check his emails from both his phone and his computer, I figured I could still see the contents of their exchanges, even though he doesn't use the computer anymore. Once I retire, I'll leave my wife and we can live together. Shockingly, that was what was indeed written in the emails he had sent. I've told my wife that I won't get much retirement money due to the recession, and she completely bought it, so let's use that money to buy an apartment. My husband works at a major company, and a few years ago he happily said, "It seems like I'll get more than $260,000 for my retirement money." That reminded me of how he recently started saying something different. "The company's performance is deteriorating, and it seems like I won't get much retirement money." So, how much will you get? Maybe around $60,000 at best. It wasn't his fault the company was doing poorly, and when he told me this with a dejected look on his face, I couldn't say anything more at the time. We have some savings, and adding our 2 pensions together, wouldn't we be able to manage somehow? Ever since that day, I spent my days looking at the household accounts and punching numbers into a calculator. After my husband's retirement, we planned to go to the movies and eat out once a month, take a few trips a year, and so on. If we pared back our envisioned post-retirement life a bit, well, quite a bit, we'd probably be able to manage. I'll try to get more hours at my part-time job. I feel bad, but I guess my husband will have to work part-time while he's still healthy. What was all that worrying for? Does your wife really have no idea about us? Even if she finds out, she'll forgive me if I apologize. It was the same 10 years ago. She believes we completely broke up then, so it's fine. Ha 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 ha. The email was filled with words that seemed to mock me. I'll get $260,000 as retirement money, but I told my wife I'd only get $60,000. So when we divorce, I'll just give her half of that, $30,000. $30,000 should be more than enough for your wife. On the day of my retirement, I'll hand her the divorce papers. Then we can start our new life in the apartment we bought yesterday. Seeing a heart symbol in the email of my soon-to-be 65-year-old husband made me feel sick. An apartment they bought yesterday? When I checked my husband's bank account online, I saw a transfer of $50,000 to a real estate agent the day before the email was sent, and there was hardly any money left. An already completed love nest? I'm astounded. My anger gradually turned into emptiness, and my mind began to clear. I'll grant your wish and divorce you, and I'll do it in a way that benefits me as much as possible. I continued to use the internet to search various things about divorce. Ah, I see. I can also get consolation money from the mistress. It seemed that the affair from 10 years ago was past its statute of limitations, but if it had continued since then, that's a different story. Come to think of it, I have it. I rummaged through the closet and pulled out the diary I had written 10 years ago. I turned the pages and found a piece of paper I had inserted at the date when the affair was exposed. Just as I thought. After glancing through the contents and grinning, I immediately called the law firm I had been researching online. I was determined to accomplish everything without him noticing by his birthday, which is also his retirement date. A few days later, my husband came home unusually early and looked around the room. It seems like a lot of stuff is missing lately. I've been throwing out things we don't need. It's quite the trend now. I had already decided where to move after the divorce and had been gradually moving my stuff. I was inwardly panicked, thinking he might have noticed, but my husband, who seemed to have lost interest in me, didn't seem to understand anything. Hey, my mother wants to rebuild her house, so I've decided to help her with our savings. What? Of course, I've given all my savings to my mother. It can't be helped if it's still not enough. But we have our future life to consider too. You're working part-time, so it should be fine. But then we'll have almost no savings left. It's okay, we'll get $60,000 as retirement money. He's probably trying to decrease our shared property to minimize the amount he has to give me. But I never thought he would resort to such a petty tactic. Well, I was planning to take you to a fancy hot spring inn to celebrate your retirement. Huh? I don't need that. Why not? Well, it's pointless to travel with you at this point. I didn't miss the momentary look of discomfort on my husband's face. Of course, he wouldn't think of going on a trip with me, whom he plans to hand divorce papers to on his retirement day. After retiring, I was thinking about doing various things like traveling around just the two of us, skiing and so on. You know, it's what you were talking about before. As I deliberately spoke in a bright voice, my husband became even more sullen. What can you do? Are you saying we should live in luxury while my mother has to endure hardship? That's not what I'm saying. I just wanted to enjoy a peaceful time together after your retirement. My husband grimaced and fell silent. Up until recently, I was serious about that. But guess what? I don't want to go with you anymore either. Too bad. I bitterly muttered to myself inside my heart. Then came my husband's retirement day. I prepared a feast on the table and set off a cracker as soon as my husband walked into the room. In contrast to my beaming smile, my husband had a cold, mask-like expression on his face. Congratulations on your retirement. Let's get divorced. What? You're kidding. Having simulated this moment over and over in my head, I dramatically feigned shock and began to sob like an actress. I'm sorry, I'll give you half of the $60,000 retirement allowance as a property settlement, so please forgive me. We don't have any other shared property. No, I don't want a divorce. I'm sorry. With that, my husband left the house. All that was left was a divorce paper with my husband's name already filled in. Well then, on to the next plan. As I promptly filled in my name on the divorce paper, I raised a toast and ate the feast alone. The next day, I was standing in front of a luxury apartment that my husband had reportedly bought with another woman. When I pressed the room number at the entrance, a woman's voice responded. You're Emberlyn, right? Liam's wife? Ah! The surprise in her voice was so unexpected that I had to stifle a laugh. Is your husband home? Could we come in? No way! Go home! You two don't have the right to refuse us. Huh? What do you mean? Who do you think the woman with me is? She's a lawyer. What? Would you prefer to discuss this right now or go to court? Through the monitor, my husband Liam appears, and the two of them are having some sort of discussion. Do you want us to come in or continue talking here at the entrance? If we keep this up, all the neighbors will know about your wrongdoings. Are you okay with that? Fine, come in. And so I stormed into the love nest of my foolish husband and his mistress, accompanied by a lawyer. Once inside, my husband bombarded me with questions like, how did you find out? And how did you investigate this place? But I ignored them all. Then the lawyer next to me presented a divorce agreement to the two of them. Property division, $195,000. Consolation money, $195,000. A total of $390,000. What the hell is this? Seeing the contents, Liam and Emberlyn were left with their mouths agape. There's no way we have that much money. Why not? Retirement payment of $260,000, $80,000 given to your mom, and $50,000 for the down payment on this apartment. If you add it all up, it's exactly $390,000. Please pay promptly. I told you my company's retirement payment was only $60,000. It's too bad you tried to trick me. The lawyer has already contacted the company and investigated. All of this is shared marital property. The lawyer next to me nodded in agreement. Emberlyn, we're also asking you for $50,000 in consolation money. I don't have money either. If you don't have money, you can't pay. Please forgive me, I'm begging you. Suddenly, my husband knelt down in apology, and Emberlyn did the same next to him. Do you think if you apologize to me, I'll forgive you that easily? Don't underestimate me. What do you think I've been doing for the past 40 years supporting you? The two of them, who had been looking down, hesitantly looked up at my unexpected ferocity. Do you want to sign the divorce agreement here and now, or do you want to go to a court case you have no chance of winning? I'll let you choose. Going to court would be a hassle. It would take both time and money, but this consolation payment is outrageous. That's right, it's absurd. Oh, have you forgotten? I pulled out a sheet of paper from my bag. Pledge. We will never meet again. If we break this promise, we will accept any demands. It was that one piece of paper that had been tucked into my diary from 10 years ago. During the first affair scandal, I had made it in a rush and had them both sign it. It says here you'll do anything. This kind of thing is invalid now. That's right. Then let's go to court. Well, right, you haven't received your retirement money yet. If we're going to court, I'll make sure to contact the company so you can't spend the money freely. My husband was silent for a while, looking down, but after a moment he muttered, Understood, and raised his head. Good, now sign this. But $195,000 for consolation money, that's just too much. Even I could see that. It's just over $4,850 per year for the 40 years I've supported you. You're saying even that's too much? I don't want to equate our 40 years of marriage to money, but if I don't say this much, I'm sure he wouldn't understand. Truth be told, the lawyer also said this amount was too high, but during the creation of the agreement, I was told I could ask for whatever I wanted, so I pushed for it. But can't you reduce the amount a bit? I need to live after this, and there's the mortgage for this apartment. If that's the case, why not sell the apartment? Of course, if you sell it now, it'll be a lot cheaper than the original price, so it'll be a loss. That's what I'm saying, so understand, please. Don't start acting sweet now. The only thing I understand is that you two will live a miserable life because you'll have no money. After saying what I wanted to say, I left the rest to the lawyer and left the room. In the end, the consolation money was reduced to $80,000. Still, they couldn't afford the mortgage and had to put the apartment up for sale, but they couldn't get the price they wanted and ended up in heavy debt. My ex-husband had no choice but to start working day labor jobs, and Emberlyn started working at a bar. Even then, they didn't have enough money to live and were constantly fighting. I never thought I would start living alone at this age, but being able to use my time freely now is very comfortable. Lately, I've been into traveling all over the place by myself, and I'm planning to go abroad in the future. There's still plenty of life left to enjoy.
Bobby's mom! Please come immediately! The sight that I saw, having rushed over at the teacher's words, was my son collapsed on the spot. My son was unconscious after colliding with a friend and falling from the playground equipment. I was anxious and called help to my husband, but busy with his work, he didn't come to our son's side. Even though it's his job, it's just too cruel, while his own son is being taken away in an ambulance. I realized something. The worst reason he couldn't rush to our son's side. I'm Jennifer. I live with my husband John and our elementary school-age son, Bobby. John works in the hotel industry and doesn't have weekends off, so he rarely participates in Bobby's school events. He's never shown up for parent-teacher conferences or sports days. When we received the letter about a parent-child outing, I asked my husband, knowing he probably couldn't go, John, there's a parent-child outing during the upcoming public holiday. During a holiday? I can't. I have work. Despite understanding, I still felt lonely. When I asked other moms, they said that everyone is managing to attend with their spouses. Some people also work on weekends, but they seem to be adjusting to take the day off. When I mentioned this, John clearly seemed annoyed and retorted, So what? You're telling me to take a day off too? You understand my work, right? Yeah, sorry. Reluctantly, I decided to attend the parent-child outing with Bobby alone. While many families were participating with both parents, there were also fathers participating alone because their wives were working. Well, it happens that wives have to work too. I wasn't bothered by it. and thought I would enjoy the day with Bobby. However, when the children go off to play, it inevitably gets lonely. The other moms were there with their husbands, so it was hard to join in the conversation. As I was sitting there, the teacher came running towards me in a panic. "Bobby's mom, please come immediately." "Huh? What happened?" "Bobby. He collided with a friend and fell off the playground equipment." "What? Bobby?" I rushed to the scene to find my son unconscious. The teacher immediately called an ambulance, and I got in with Bobby, who was still unconscious. When we arrived at the hospital, he was immediately taken to the examination room. Realizing I hadn't informed John, I quickly called him. "Hello, John? Something terrible has happened. Bobby fell from the playground equipment and hit his head. He's unconscious." "What? Shouldn't you have called an ambulance before calling me?" "The teacher already did that. He's being transported to the hospital and undergoing examinations now." "All right. You're at the hospital then. Let me know the results via email when you know." "What?" I couldn't believe my ears. He wasn't planning to come to the hospital in this emergency? "What are you saying? You need to come home now." In response to my cry, my husband replied in a flippant tone, "Hey, didn't I tell you I can't take a break during this holiday?" "But we're in a state of emergency right now. Don't you understand?" "I know you're at the hospital, but what's the point of me going there? There's nothing I can do at the moment. We just have to wait for the results. Let me know when you get any updates. Bye for now." With that, John hung up the phone abruptly. I was left staring at my smartphone, dumbfounded. He wouldn't even come home for our son's critical situation. As I slumped there, a man approached me. "Are you Bobby's mom?" "I'm Alex's father." It was Alex's father who had spoken. Alex was the friend who had collided with Bobby. I remembered him attending the event with his son as his wife was absent. Alex's father bowed deeply towards me. "I am truly sorry for what has happened." I hastily shook my head. "I heard from the teacher that Bobby and Alex accidentally ran into each other. It was a careless mistake on our part as well. Please don't worry about it." Standing next to his father, Alex, with his bandages wrapped around him, stood there with his eyes swollen from crying. "It's because I ran into Bobby." I reassured Alex gently. "It's not your fault, Alex. Bobby will be absolutely fine. Once he's better, will you play with him again?" Alex nodded tearfully. His father, looking relieved, thanked me. "Thank you for your kind words. My wife should have been here to greet you as well. I apologize." "No, it's okay. My husband can't come back from work either. Is Alex's mother at work too?" "No, actually." Alex's father hesitated. "My wife is on a trip with her friends. It was planned before this field trip, so she couldn't cancel it. It's embarrassing." "Oh, I see." I tried to contact her several times about the accident, but I haven't been able to reach her. As soon as Alex's father finished speaking, his phone rang. "Oh, it's my wife. Excuse me for a moment." Alex's father quickly answered the phone and explained the situation to his wife. "That's what happened. How soon can you get back here?" 2 hours? But how are you going to get back? You can't drive, can you? Oh, a friend is with you? That's good then. Be careful." After ending the call, he reported to me with a relieved look. "I'm sorry. I just got in touch with my wife. She has a friend who happens to be coming near here, and she will drive her here. It will take about 2 hours, though." "I see." Then my phone rang. "Oh, it's my husband. Excuse me." I excused myself and answered the call. "John, what happened?" "I managed to get some time off and we'll head there. I'll finish work in about 2 hours and I'll head straight there." "Really? That's great." After ending the call, I reported back to Alex's father. "My husband will also be here in about 2 hours. It's good that we can both meet." Just then, we were called by the doctor who had finished the examination. According to the examination, Bobby had no abnormalities. He had just lost consciousness due to the shock, and they decided to observe him for now. Even though they said no abnormalities, it was still nerve-wracking not knowing when he would regain consciousness. As I came out of the examination room filled with worry, Alex's father was there waiting for me. He was holding Alex, who had fallen asleep from exhaustion. We started to chat about our families to distract ourselves from the situation. Alex's mother was a homemaker, but recently she had been going out with her friends often during evenings and weekends. When she was away, he would take care of their child. My wife usually takes care of our son Alex during weekdays, so I thought she should have some fun during nights and weekends. But now, I regret not canceling her trip during the school field trip. As I listened to his story, I couldn't help but compare it to my husband John. My husband, on his days off, be it weekends when he has work, or even on weekdays, he always leaves alone saying he needs to unwind. In contrast, Alex's father is actively involved in childcare. I found myself confiding my husband's complaints to him. As we talked, I noticed a strange coincidence. The behavior of John and Alex's mother coincided exactly. The days they couldn't attend events. The weekdays they went out in the evening. They were all the same. I suddenly became curious and asked, "By the way, my husband went on a business trip to Phoenix last month." "Oh, when was that?" "It was the first weekend of last month, I believe." My wife said she was going on a trip with friends that day and came back with souvenirs from Phoenix. Could it be? We exchanged glances. It had been about 2 hours since we called John and his wife. The first to contact us was John. "My husband will arrive at the parking lot soon, so I'll go and pick him up." I told Alex's father and headed to the parking lot. When I nervously peeked into the car, there was no one in the passenger seat. Could it be that Alex's mother is with him? That's what I was speculating. I brought John, who got out of the car with an innocent face, back to the hospital room where Bobby was sleeping. After exchanging greetings with Alex's father, Alex's mother appeared. I didn't miss the moment when she and John looked at each other's faces and were momentarily lost for words. As if nothing had happened, John greeted Alex's mother. "Ha, hello. Thank you for always taking care of our son." Alex's mother quickly returned the greeting in response to John's excited voice. "Oh, yes. Hello. Likewise." Upon observing the two, I decided to stir the pot a bit. "Oh, is this your first time meeting my husband, Alex's mom?" Alex's mother answered in a flustered manner. Of course. It's our first meeting. Isn't it obvious?" "You don't have to deny it so desperately. It wouldn't be strange if you had met him at parent-teacher meetings or school events, right?" That's impossible. I didn't know John's son was in the same class as my son." I hadn't called my husband by his name in front of her yet. She took the bait. This was suspicious. At that moment, I was convinced of my husband's affair with her. Moreover, it seemed that they had been dating without knowing that their children were classmates. Isn't it strange? "How do you know my husband's name if you're meeting for the first time?" Alex's mother was at a loss for words at my questioning. That is... Suddenly, John snapped at me to protect her. "Hey, Jennifer, what's your problem? That's rude to her, isn't it? She's the mother of our son's friend. You should show some respect." Alex woke up to the sound of John yelling, and then he pointed at John and said, "The man who comes to our house." "A man who comes to our house?" The hospital room fell silent. Alex's mother tried to cover up his remark in a hurry. "Whoa, hold on, Alex. What are you talking about? Are you mistaking him for someone else?" Perplexed, Alex continues. "No, I'm not mistaken. Dad, could you lend me your tablet?" Alex receives the tablet from his father, and with practiced ease, he shows a certain image. "Look, this." The image displayed is of a toy train set in Alex's room that he had assembled himself. The toy train set is a product sold by a toy company. "What's this? Isn't it the toy set that Alex usually plays with?" To his mother's puzzled question, Alex points to a figure in the background of the toy train set. See this man? I remember him because I look at this photo from time to time." Upon closer inspection, the image captured the living room in the background of Alex's room, where a man, John, was seen chatting amiably with Alex's mother. "With this, you can't dodge the truth anymore," I muttered, giving them a hard stare. Alex's father, too, was trembling with anger. He raised his voice at his wife. "You've been inviting your lover into our house while I'm at work? And look at the date. It's the day I was away on business, wasn't it? I too was shocked when I saw the date. This date? Wasn't it the day John didn't come home because he was on a business trip? Don't tell me. You stayed over at Alex's house? That is, she said it was okay, so I just... John readily admitted his infidelity and shifted the blame onto Alex's mother. Hearing this, she hastily countered. What? You're blaming me? It was you who said it's a waste of money to stay outside, wasn't it? Alex's father put an end to the ugly argument. Enough. Inviting your lover to stay in a house where there's a child? You're unfit to be a mother. You're utterly despicable. I disdain you from the bottom of my heart. At his words, John flinched, and he quickly tried to paint the lover as the villain. Indeed, she's unfit to be a mother. At least I've never met her in front of Bobby. I care about my child, you know. What? What's this guy talking about? He's joking, right? I felt a surge of anger towards my husband. Are you kidding me? Even though Bobby was unconscious, you didn't even try to come home, using work as an excuse. No, that's not true. I mean, I rushed to the hospital, didn't I? That's because she decided to come back, isn't it? You didn't have the slightest intention of coming back until Alex's dad told her about our son's accident. I thought it would be okay even if I wasn't there at that time. Whether it's okay or not, that's not the point. If you're a father, you should rush to your child's side when you hear they're unconscious, shouldn't you? Despite that, you prioritized your trip with your lover. You're not a father, or anything of the sort. No matter what you think, I am Bobby's father. And what do you plan to do if Bobby doesn't wake up? Can you, a stay-at-home mom, keep paying the hospital bills? Without me, you and our son can't survive. Grr. It's frustrating, but I don't have the savings to keep paying these hospital bills. Do I have no choice but to turn a blind eye to John's infidelity for now? Just when I was about to give up, a frail voice came from the bed. Mom? When I turned around, Bobby had his eyes barely open. Bobby! I clung to my son. Bobby hugged me back tightly, then said, Even if Dad's not here, I'll be okay, because I'll protect you, Mom. Hearing Bobby's words, John was dumbfounded. Bobby, why would you say something like that? Then my son answered firmly, Because you're moving out, right, Dad? After Mom went to bed the other night, you said that on the phone, didn't you? On the phone? I heard you talking when I got up to go to the bathroom, Dad. You said I don't care about Jennifer at all. If it wasn't for the kids, I would leave right away and be with you. That's what you said, isn't it, Dad? That's... John's face went pale. So, I'll grant Dad's wish. I don't need to be your child anymore. I don't need a dad anymore. John was shocked at Bobby's words. On the other hand, I finally made up my mind after hearing what Bobby had said. I've made up my mind. Please, let's separate. As I told this to my husband, Alex's father handed me his business card. Jennifer, I'll help with your decision too. The business card he handed over had the title of a law firm's director printed on it. We should have plenty of evidence aside from this toy train photo. Leave the claim for alimony and child support to me. I'm planning to make a claim to my wife too, so it's like killing two birds with one stone. Upon hearing his words, Alex's mother started to panic. What? Wait! I haven't agreed to a divorce yet. I won't leave you. Then Alex's father said to her in a cold voice, Huh? You, who cheated, have no right to choose. A low-life mother who would cheat in front of her child doesn't deserve custody. If you still object, it'll go to court, you know. You're aware of my high success rate in court, right? And with such favorable conditions, there's no way I'd lose. Seemingly resigned, Alex's mother quickly consented to the divorce and agreed to pay the compensation. Seeing this, John also signed the pledge to pay alimony and child support to his wife. He must have realized that it was futile to go against the lawyer. After that, both our marriages ended in divorce. The now free Alex's mother and John started living together as planned. However, their living arrangement didn't go as planned. Once they started living together, they began suspecting each other of cheating with someone else, and their relationship began to sour. Tired of the relationship, John actually ended up cheating with another married woman. As always, John was sloppy and was easily caught by the woman's husband, who demanded compensation. Alex's mother also cheated with someone else, but her lover merely took advantage of her and then dumped her. Alex's mother, who had spent all her savings, and John, who was drowning in debt from paying compensation. They both seemed to be stuck together, blaming each other for their misfortunes. At this rate, they're clearly heading for financial ruin, but I don't feel sorry for them at all. They reaped what they sowed. It serves them right. As for me, thanks to Alex's father, I received more than enough alimony and child support, and now Bobby and I are living a peaceful life. Bobby got better without any problems and returned to his daily life. He still plays happily with Alex, just like before. I've become good friends with Alex's father, even more so than my mom friends, and we talk about everything. My only wish now is to continue living a happy life with Bobby, just the two of us.